Awesome. So it looks like attendance is slowing down, so we'll go ahead and get started. I do want to thank everyone for joining this brand new Academy series that we have focused solely on knowledge management here at ServiceNow. So this is going to go throughout the year. It is going to be held once monthly. Every second Tuesday of the month at 12 p.m. Eastern. So we will have different topics throughout the year, and I'll post some of those future topics in just a little bit. If you can't make the session live, no worries. We will be recording these and posting them on YouTube, as well as the decks and the Q&A. So we will have a special playlist just for knowledge management there. And you'll also see some pre-recorded short videos called Academy Shorts, where we really dive down into a topic, about a 15-minute session, kind of get a little bit more technical. You'll find those on that playlist as well. But thank you again. So this is going to be our first session. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning and get started with knowledge management. So this session really going to focus on everything that you need to know before you get started on your implementation. But it should be helpful if you've already implemented as well, or kind of revisiting your implementation of knowledge management in ServiceNow. Before I get too deep, I will be checking the chat. I will be checking the Q&A. The YouTube channel name is just going to be called Knowledge Management. I'll post it here in just a little bit when we get to the resources. But if you're familiar with navigating our other Academy playlists, you'll see it in there alongside of all of those. Let me just go ahead and get the safe harbor notice out of the way. So in this session and future Academy sessions, I am going to be speaking to some backlog items that we have and some roadmap items that we are looking at in future releases, but maybe haven't committed to. So please don't make any purchasing decisions based upon this session or future sessions, but you'll see this safe harbor notice every time. That's kind of just the short of the legalese here. And let's go ahead and talk about some housekeeping for the Academy. So please use the Q&A button for any questions that you might have. Zoom gives me a nice little transcript of all of them. I'm going to take them and type them out, even if I've answered them live, and post them to the event on the community for this Academy. So that way you can refer to them as reference later, or they're searchable within the community itself. Feel free to use the chat for any kind of interaction that you want to have with other folks. I see a lot of people introducing themselves, which is great. So any kind of comments that you might have, or if you just want to chat with other attendees, and then just use that Q&A for the questions. Also, this session is being recorded. It is going to be posted on YouTube. I'm going to spend a little time editing out all my hopefully, and then I'll get it to you a couple of days later. And like I mentioned, I will have a PDF of the deck that I share, and then that Q&A posted as well. So a little bit of that housekeeping. I do want to introduce myself. So my name is Ashley Snyder. I'm an outbound product manager here at ServiceNow. I just hit my 2-year mark of ServiceNow, so I'm really excited about that. It's definitely been a really great journey. I've learned a lot just working at the company about our different products and how the company works. Really excited for 2024 and being part of the knowledge management team here. Previously, I was an administrator and a developer for ServiceNow myself, working for customers. So different industries such as higher education and healthcare. I worked for a partner, kind of did the gamut. A lot of different administrators have worked on different suites such as ITSM, SPM, or what we used to call ITBM, or anything kind of platform. Back in the day, you really kind of had to be a jack of all trades. Not so much the case anymore. But my expertise that I'm focusing on right now at ServiceNow is, of course, knowledge management. That'll be one of my main focuses for this year. But you'll see me on other academies and other sessions talking about other products such as Admin Center. So our admin homepage, application manager, configuration hub are some new things that we came out with. Also adoption services, so guided tours, help center, and guided setup. You'll see me talking about those as well. And you may have seen me talk about Next Experience in our San Diego release. That's really where I got started here. So hopefully you'll kind of see me on the Academy or on the community. You've seen me already. Just a few areas that I cover. Fun fact about me is that I started out on the Fuji release back in 2015. So I am pretty seasoned, but not as seasoned as a lot of folks out there. But as the years creep by, that release is getting further and further away. I do invite you to go ahead and just put what release you started out in on the chat. I just kind of want to gauge where everyone's at. How long they've been working with the platform. Like I mentioned, this series and this session should have a little bit for everyone. Talking about the personas that we're going to be targeting for the Academy, I do want to just kind of let you know, really, again, it's for knowledge management, but I am going to be targeting the content for some different personas. So our knowledge management process owners, so those individuals at your company who are really focused on the knowledge management process, making sure it's rolled out, making sure it's working. That person who establishes your goals and your objectives for your knowledge management program, and just kind of does the overall caretaking and overseeing of your knowledge management program. So knowledge managers, so those individuals who are really responsible for the day-to-day operations of the knowledge base that they're assigned to. So you can have a knowledge manager for a different knowledge base and different knowledge base owners. And they ensure the quality and the relevancy and the health of their knowledge bases. They go through and identify any kind of knowledge gaps in areas that need knowledge, and do that metric reporting as well to make sure that we're meeting our goals and objectives that we've set for knowledge management. Also implementers, so folks who are currently implementing knowledge management or plan to in the future. So this could be partners, this could be you at a company as an administrator. Or really anyone who has an interest in knowledge management. Hopefully we'll get some good information out of these sessions, but just so you kind of know the roles that we're focusing on. Looking at the chat, we have a lot of different releases here: Helsinki, Kingston, Geneva, Rome, Quebec, the start of all things. So I'm assuming before we did the city releases and we were back probably in seasons or even before that. Madrid, San Diego, I see another Fuji on there. I did do some splunking back in time for knowledge management as a product. And we go all the way back to the first release, the GlideSoft 2004 release. So knowledge management has been in the platform since the very beginning, super foundational. And it's really interesting to see kind of how it's changed throughout the releases and how we're continuing to evolve, especially since now we have generative AI and knowledge management has kind of circled back around into the forefront. So it's going to be a really exciting year. With that, it's a good segue to our future topics. So I do have some kind of topics lined out for the series that I want to focus on. These may change depending on kind of what y'all are asking for, what customers are asking for, and if we have any big ground shaking things happen this year like we did last year. But really, we're going to be looking at process and role deep dives. That's a big question I get asked a lot from customers. Knowledge-centered service, that's a methodology that's kind of outside of ServiceNow. It's not specific to us. A lot of knowledge management products use it, but we do have it built into our product. And if you haven't used it before, you may have questions on what it is. So definitely want to kind of shed some light on that, get some foundational knowledge out on that. Analytics, that's going to be a big one that I'm going to drill into. We have a lot of different analytics solutions now on ServiceNow. So we have dashboards for knowledge management. Service portal, you can do different kind of reporting off those logs, and you can also use user experience analytics, platform analytics, or what used to be called performance analytics. So I kind of want to wrap all those different endpoints and things that you can do to report on knowledge management into kind of like a knowledge management lens. Let's take all those different areas and kind of put them together to see how we can track and achieve our goals so they're not in different places. So that's going to be a big one. Deep dives on capabilities, so actionable feedback and knowledge blocks are a lot of meeting asks that I get that I want to shed some more light on, and I'll add some more along the way. Best practices for using like AI search and virtual agents. We did a KMUG or knowledge management user group session that's recorded and will be on our playlist on best practices in AI search from a knowledge management perspective, which was really helpful. So that is out there for you if you want to go ahead and take a look at it. New release features and more as we have come up. So this isn't a prescriptive list. It's not set in stone, but a good outline and draft for what you can expect in the next year. We do have some great comments on KCS. I took the foundation training. I'm about to take a 2-day workshop to get a little bit deeper, but it is a great training and a great methodology. It is put out by the Consortium for Service Innovation, which I can link here at the end, and we'll have more kind of resources out there for you within the presentation if you want to deep dive a little bit deeper before the Academy comes out on that. So today's goal, what can you get out of the session for today? Well, I do want to discuss kind of the keys for setting up a successful knowledge management program. I want to really focus on planning and things that will really help you out before you implement, or whether you're revisiting your implementation. I want to focus on the importance of governance in knowledge management, and of course, let you know of all the resources that we have out there for you as it pertains to knowledge management in ServiceNow. So that really is going to be the goal for today. We're not going to get into a lot of demos or technical deep dives today. So it's going to be slides and kind of more of a reference overview. But hopefully you get a lot of good information out of this to kind of get you set up and getting started. Let's go ahead and just start kind of with a definition of what knowledge management is. So it is the creating, sharing, using, and managing the knowledge and information of an organization. This is a really broad definition, but it is widely accepted. Knowledge management itself has been around since the 1990s. So we have over 30 years of different resources and methodologies and frameworks and products out there for you. So if you can definitely get really, really deep into knowledge management. I know a lot of knowledge managers at organizations do. There's institutes and different kind of governing bodies out there that you can be part of if you want to get deeper in knowledge management. And the goal of knowledge management really is to deliver the right information to the right person at the right time. So a really kind of simplified goal that if you keep in mind as you're implementing and putting out new capabilities, and really think, are we getting the right information to the right person and this is the right time, will kind of lead you along the way to achieving that. So something really great to keep in mind. And with that goal, we do have some benefits to using knowledge management, whether you're using it within ServiceNow or not. Hopefully you are using ServiceNow and that's why you're here. But benefits of knowledge management, this isn't really an exhaustive list. There's tons out there, but I did want to kind of highlight some that you can see, especially if you're using knowledge management in ServiceNow. The first one being all the latest technologies that are coming out. We've been hearing about this all out through 2023 with generative AI, but using different AI capabilities and machine learning capabilities. We've had AI and ML built into the platform and the product before generative AI came out. Generative AI is just another capability we have now for knowledge management. But really, you have to have a really great knowledge management foundation and have that data and have those quality and relevant articles within your knowledge bases in order to take advantage of these capabilities. So it all kind of goes back to the foundation and the core of knowledge management, but then you get to use these really great new technologies to make your business run more efficiently and more effectively. And the next one being lowering your support costs. Using self-service, whether you're searching in portals or using virtual agent or using mobile, really getting that information to your employees and customers faster without them having to open up a support case or an incident. And also onboarding your agents faster. So reducing that time that really takes to train agents on troubleshooting something and kind of just training them on knowing how to find their resources and how to find the knowledge articles that they need to resolve issues. So lowering that onboarding time for agents, faster resolution times. As you have your articles ready for your agents to use, of course, their incidents and their cases are going to be resolved a lot faster. We're going to reduce our escalation rates, and we're also going to reduce the duplication of effort. So a KCS principle is to search early and search often. So the first thing that your agents should really be doing is searching for a knowledge article when they get an incident or a case rather than troubleshooting, so we can reduce a lot of that troubleshooting effort and resolve that incident or case a lot more quickly. With all that, of course, you get increased customer satisfaction, whether they're using self-service or their incidents or cases are being resolved more quickly, and your agents are happier too. As they log in, they have a lot of different things they're multitasking on. I used to be on multiple service desks and kind of knowing that when I get in for the day, even if I get a lot of cases, I know that I have the knowledge and the tools in place to solve those effectively really took a lot of that stress off me as an agent. So focusing on both sides of that satisfaction for both your customers, employees, and the agents themselves. And finally, process improvements. So you can really tell if you have like workaround articles and step-by-step articles out there, and they're getting a lot of traffic and usage for different processes that you have. You can gain insight and see, this workaround article is getting a lot of hits. Maybe now it's time we prioritize improving this process since we're relying on this workaround article so heavily. So again, not an exhaustive list, but a really good one of the different benefits that you can get with using knowledge management. And thank you for posting the KCS information in the chat. I appreciate it. This is what the chat's all about, right? Sharing that information. So let's go ahead. We're going to switch gears. We kind of outlined what knowledge management is and the different benefits of it. I do want to kind of talk about what we're going to be focusing on today, which is our keys for success on a knowledge management journey. So again, this isn't an exhaustive or prescriptive section. It's really meant to serve as kind of guideposts for you in your implementation or revisiting your implementation. Just some things, if you look at these and start to hit the targets on these, you can do a lot of research for getting real prescriptive and using kind of different tools out there. But really, if you hit these, you should be in a good place for your knowledge management implementation. So with the first one being planning and preparing, it's really easy to want to jump into the technology and begin implementing. I know in ServiceNow, we make it really easy to start jumping in and setting things up. That's a really great thing about the platform. We have really great resources and product docs out there to help you with that. But it's really important that you do just take a little time up front to plan and prepare before you start setting things up or migrating from other repositories. This is going to save you a lot of time up front and during your implementation. And essentially with all this planning, you're going to be set up to scale after your implementation as well, because you're going to have a really good foundation for your program. With that, knowing where to find your resources. So all the resources that we have out there for you. And then also focusing on your governance, your people, and your processes, because this is really going to drive how you implement the technology and implement our capabilities within ServiceNow Knowledge Management. And then finally, you've done your planning, preparing, and you got your processes and your governance all mapped out, and you've implemented. Really then being able to measure and communicate your success, and then also celebrating it and celebrating all the wins that you've got and all the people who got you there with contributing to your knowledge management program. All right, so a few things for planning and preparing. Like I mentioned, if you hit these, you should be in a pretty good place. Definitely not exhausted. There's a lot more out there. But the first one is to assemble your stakeholders. So just like any other kind of projects that you might have out there, if you've implemented like ITSM or CSM before, more than likely you had a project team and you had to find stakeholders for that team. We do recommend treating knowledge management as like any other implementation and having a project team if you can. Really defining the individuals who are going to ensure that the deliverables are going to be met, the timelines in which they're going to be met in, and then doing that communication across the company about the program and about the milestones and the timelines. I know that, a lot of organizations may not be able to do a project for this. I've been in those organizations myself. For knowledge management, we didn't really have a project for that. Project management really wasn't done in that way. But just really identifying those stakeholders, whether it is your knowledge management process owner or your ServiceNow product owner or even admin teams, really just kind of getting those roles and responsibilities for that implementation defined up front. So this can look different depending on your organization and depending on how your organization manages implementing different things in ServiceNow. So the next one is going to be to define your objectives and your goals. So your high-level business objectives, these should align to your organization's objectives. You may be cross-pollinating with other objectives. So a lot of knowledge management objectives do align with incident management or case management objectives. Like I mentioned, faster resolution time, really getting those defined and those targets that you want to hit. And then defining your KPIs or your key performance indicators that roll up to your high-level business objectives, and then also the metrics that you're going to use to measure your success. So I'll go a little bit deeper on this in the next slide. But these objectives and these metrics are going to help you communicate the value of your program, especially to your leadership and those who you need to get buy-in on or maintain buy-in, especially in the future when you want to ask for resources, whether it's purchasing Gen AI capabilities or purchasing or getting more human resources onboarded, getting more like knowledge managers and just asking for those resources. This is really going to be how you're going to communicate the success of your program and how much more successful it would be if you had those resources. Assessing the current state of your knowledge management. So I know it's really easy to want to begin migrating repositories over, but if you kind of take a look at the current state, whether you're outside of ServiceNow in your knowledge management or you're inside of it, kind of assessing where you're at, and this will really help you determine what you need to do for where you want to go. And then also developing a roadmap. So again, just like other implementations that you may have done in ServiceNow, go ahead and start defining your roadmap early. Put your implementation on the roadmap. As you implement, you might find that there's things that you're going to have to move out of the implementation, or maybe some other company priorities needed to move in. That way you can go ahead and just put them on your roadmap and prioritize them, and you know where you need to go after you've implemented. So not an exhaustive list, but again, if you hit these kind of 4 things, you'll be really set up for success and in good shape for your program going forward. So KPIs and metrics, like I mentioned, these are your tools of communication. They're really going to drive how you implement your technology. A lot of the times I do see on implementations that dashboards and metrics are at the very end. And I want to stress the importance of getting these defined really early to drive how you're going to implement knowledge management. If you can, go ahead and get your dashboard set up, get the metrics defined, know the ones that you're going to use and track. I've been on implementations for other products like ITSM, where we did all this table architecting at the very beginning, and then to find out that it didn't support our dashboard reporting at the end. And then we had to go back and redo it. So definitely put your dashboards and your metrics at the very beginning and drive everything else based off of them. I do have some kind of key areas for your KPIs that you can focus on. And we have a lot of these out of the box for you. So tracking usage and engagement of your knowledge bases. So we have out of the box metrics to track usage and views. We have click-through rates if you're using Search on Portal and things like that. For engagement, we do have metrics on feedback, ratings, marking as helpful, and even subscriptions. You may want to go a little bit further than this, but really just seeing where your usage is at and your engagement within your knowledge bases. The next one, time to solve issues. Again, this is probably going to intertwine with some other objectives that you have for case or incident management, or maybe even HR cases, where you really want to look at reducing average handling time. What is the handling time on incidents that have a knowledge article associated versus not? Really, the goal is to decrease that average handling time. And if we have incidents or cases that have knowledge articles attached, really the trend should be downward on that time. Same for first contact resolution, increasing that with the use of knowledge articles. Mean time to repair. We want to decrease escalation rates and we want to increase deflection rates. So with this, again, we have a lot of out-of-the-box metrics. They're going to be specific to what you're using. So if you have CSM or customer service management, they have a lot of these out of the box with their dashboards. If you're using incident management, they'll have them out of the box with their dashboards. But really, kind of as like a knowledge process owner and a knowledge manager, being able to view these and see these and track these are really going to be what you're primarily concerned about in this category. The next one being customer satisfaction. So we definitely want to get those CSAT scores. We can get those via surveys. We have a survey management tool that you can use in ServiceNow to get those. We have kind of sentiment analysis tools with performance or platform analytics that you can use to take a look at comments and feedback. And I know that CSM has some CSAT scores built in. I believe incident management does too. So take a look at your metrics and your dashboards for those respective areas. See if they are already out of the box for you. If they're not, then you could definitely build something in using survey management in ServiceNow for knowledge management. I've done an implementation on that myself. So that is available to you to start tracking that CSAT. And then finally, contributions. So is your knowledge base getting traction with users creating articles? We have out-of-the-box metrics for the number of published articles, quality, relevancy, and time to publish. So those are all really things that you're going to want to keep in mind and keep a real good eye on, especially when it comes to quality and relevancy, as those metrics are going to tell you a lot about the health of your knowledge base. Quality and relevancy are going to directly tie into our results on AI search and virtual agent. And as you are, using those and getting more mature in those, and maybe even looking into generative AI solutions with those two things, your relevancy and your quality are going to be key. So those are going to be really big ones to take a look at and start tracking and getting your baselines for, especially if you are looking into moving into generative AI. I do see some questions coming in. Let's just pause and take a look real quick. So calculating relevancy scores, again, we'll have a whole analytics session where we're going to take a look at a few of these things. I will say if you want some information on that prior to that session, go ahead and take a look at the KMUG session for AI search that we did. Again, I'll post it at the end of this session. We had our AI search product success team come in and really speak to that. So take a look at those and keep an eye on the community for more content on that and where to find that. So AI search does have its own kind of analytics section and area where you can track things. So again, if you want more information on that, go to the AI Academy. But one of my goals is to, within one of our knowledge management sessions, is to take the AI search analytics and kind of flip it and say, how do we look at this from a knowledge management lens? So we will definitely cover that in a future session. Let's see. Would you recommend installing the Knowledge Management Advanced KCS plugin as part of planning? The article templates it comes with is critical when building a KB. These are these features are very important parts of planning for KM. So KCS, so with KCS, you do have to be really committed to using it as a methodology. It is kind of, when we've laid out our guided setup and our implementation, we didn't put it at the very beginning. What we see is that a lot of companies need to get familiar with the foundations of knowledge management first, and then they can focus on rolling in a KCS program. But maybe if you're already using one with a different knowledge management product and you're moving into ServiceNow, it could be something that you start out with. So I would really, before just starting with KCS, if you've never used it before, get really familiar with the Consortium for Service Innovation's website, get really familiar with their resources before you decide to do it. I wouldn't just turn it on and go for it without having that information up front about that program, because it is kind of more of a, I would say not so much mature, but it is a different process and a different way of doing things that will just take a little bit more upfront planning. But if you have the time and you want to do it in your upfront planning, and that's something that you want to accomplish, just, pad in the time for that and know that you're going to have to do the research and get those resources and get that set up before you just turn it on in ServiceNow. Let's see. One of the questions that we had, you mentioned there was a ground-shaking change last year. That was early on in the academy. That was generative AI. I remember when I started out in January, I was just kind of going along, mapping out my year. And then around March, everything seemed to change, right? The Chat GPT functionalities were really released to the public. And as a company, we really looked at generative AI. We wanted to make sure we went to market with it very quickly. So a lot of our efforts were focused on generative AI work. So you're going to see a lot of knowledge management and generative AI roadmap come out this year, as a lot of the things, a lot of the time that we spent last year was doing generative AI work and getting that ready and getting that built in. So that was kind of the change that I was talking about. In January, we're kind of just going along business as usual. And then shortly after that, everything kind of changed with our priorities and our products here. I'll answer some more questions in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and get through this section, and I'll kind of circle back around throughout the session. So I do want to speak to analyzing your current state and where you're at, whether you are outside of ServiceNow with your knowledge management or you're revisiting it. The first one being to inventory your current repositories and kind of their usage and ownership. I can't stress this enough. We all have repositories of knowledge kind of pocketed away in different areas, whether it's another knowledge management tool, whether it's SharePoint, whether it's OneDrive. It's really important to kind of know where your company's knowledge is at and document it. And then also, if you are deciding to migrate a repository over, cleaning that repository prior to migration and retiring what you need to. This just gives your authors the ability to use the tools that they know, get everything cleaned up, and then you can migrate that repository over. But your inventory is also going to be really helpful in your roadmap as well. And I'll get to that in just a little bit. But just kind of taking the time up front to make a knowledge article of where your repositories are at, what you kind of plan on migrating for your implementation, and then having something to add to as you find new repositories, because eventually you will, as you go through different departments onboarding to ServiceNow, they're going to have their knowledge scattered in places, and just having somewhere to document all that is going to be really helpful. Capturing your current knowledge gaps. So any kind of gaps that you might have, whether you're trying to resolve incidents or cases or different processes, go ahead and document those and kind of prioritize those. You might want to cover some of those gaps and create knowledge articles for them during your implementation. You might just want to prioritize them and get around to them after implementation. So just kind of making sure you have a baseline understanding of where your knowledge gaps are at. That way you can prioritize them going forward. Now's a really good time too to get qualitative feedback from your users on your current knowledge processes and how they're accessing knowledge. So, doing those surveys, kind of conducting workshops or speaking to employees and seeing what they'd like to see and what their pain points are. You can make sure you're hitting those pain points during implementation or put them on your roadmap for afterwards if you can't. And then circling back around after go live, maybe doing another workshop or survey and making sure that you've hit those pain points and that your employees' perception of your go live and your program has met their needs, and they have a positive perception of knowledge management after you migrate it and implement it in ServiceNow. And then finally, understanding how you're sharing knowledge across your company. This is an important one to know. It kind of goes hand in hand with your repositories, but you want to kind of identify early any kind of silos that you might have and any kind of knowledge hoarding activities that might be going on. That way you can ensure, when you're implementing and when you're training, that you can reduce those silos and that everyone kind of knows how to share knowledge and how to access it. And we're kind of breaking down those different silos or just kind of not knowing how to access that knowledge across the company. So building a roadmap, again, as I mentioned earlier, your roadmap is really going to serve as your path forward, during your implementation and then also after implementation. So we do recommend, getting one of these set up and documented, somewhere early on in your planning phase or, as you're starting implementation, go ahead and map that all out as close as you can. And you're going to prioritize different things on your roadmap based upon the business value and alignment to your objectives are going to be your key drivers there. Also foundational value. So what I mean by that is you're going to have different departments and stakeholder teams asking you to customize things in knowledge management, as we do with all things in ServiceNow. You're going to need to weigh that against, is this going to be scalable, and is this foundational to knowledge management and being used by different stakeholder teams? And then also technical complexity of those items. So with your business objectives, again, make sure that you have time to map those out on there, and that really your roadmap is aligning to those objectives. So you're going to have current ones, and then you're going to have new ones as you mature. So you're going to have business objectives for your foundations that you want to hit. And then as you mature and get into AI and ML and different capabilities like that, you're going to have new objectives for those. Just make sure you are mapping that out on your roadmap. Also, any kind of new processes or applications, and even repositories that you want to onboard. So that's where your repository inventory comes in hand. You can take a look at it, see what's been migrated, what hasn't, and go ahead and put these on your roadmap and prioritize them and align them to different kind of objectives and initiatives that your company has. Any kind of improvements based on feedback, so user experience and process improvements, feedback from those surveys, feedback that you get from just your normal processes. So if users are leaving feedback on articles, leaving comments and ratings, go ahead and you'll, as part of your processes, you will be monitoring those. You may be using feedback tasks. So you will be handling those daily, but you want to map out any kind of trends that you're getting and put those on your roadmap as well, especially if they're just not a break fix kind of thing. If they're maybe something like enhancing search, fine-tuning AI search, or moving from Zing search to AI search would be a bigger one that's really not break fix, or maybe something within a portal or mobile itself, just making sure that you have time for those kind of improvements. And then, of course, make sure you're leaving time for any kind of upgrades and new capabilities. So, as we upgrade and put out new releases, you're going to see upgrades to knowledge management capabilities. And then, as you get more mature, you're going to want to onboard new capabilities. So one may be knowledge demand insights. That's a more mature capability that we have that uses predictive intelligence. It's not something that a lot of customers go forward with right away. It's something that you will kind of onboard as you get more mature with your process. So leaving room for those capabilities that you want to start onboarding and taking on in your roadmap. So knowing where to find your resources, I will probably hammer this home in every academy that we have. So we do have a knowledge management product hub out there where you're going to find FAQ, you're going to find this academy. So hopefully you're already familiar with it, release updates and things that kind of my team puts out. So it is more ServiceNow driven. Our knowledge managers discussion is going to be more informal. So this is going to be the place where you kind of ask, how are other companies doing this? What are other knowledge managers doing? I want to kind of set up an XYZ recognition program for knowledge management. What have y'all done? What kind of successes have you seen? Questions like that is really going to be driven in that discussion. I see a lot of KCS kind of discussions driven in that. So that's a good area for that as well. Our Now Learning courses, we have two. We have a foundation and implementation course. They're pretty thorough. They are 6 hours long, but they are on demand, so you can take them and kind of chop them up and do what you will. But a lot of things are covered in here. A lot of the things in the product docs are covered in here, and we have videos and photos, and it walks you through maybe a lot more user-friendly way than the product docs would. So bookmark those. Just, if I would suggest, if you are implementing, definitely use those, get familiar and do it before your implementation. But also you can use them as a reference. Just keep them in mind. If you're looking at the product docs, looking at setting up something, also check that Now Learning. Check it as well. See if we have a section on there. It's really helpful. And then also our knowledge management guided setup. So this is built into the product where we walk you through kind of a basic implementation of knowledge management all the way up to that knowledge demand insights, more advanced capability. So step by step. We'll send you to the tables where you need to go to configure things. You can assign tasks if you have a team working on this, and you can track the progress of your implementation. So definitely use that in conjunction with the Now Learning courses. If you're looking for materials more on like processes, so Visio diagrams and things like that, the Customer Success Center has that. We have materials for knowledge management on there. We have materials for like implementation insights for knowledge management on there. So definitely plug knowledge management as a keyword search into Customer Success Center and explore what you'll find there. And then also, if you want hands-on support and help, I get a lot of emails and ask about advisory sessions, really getting deep into a customer-specific implementation in their program. As an outbound product manager, I'm really here to kind of speak to all customers and deliver content at scale. So advisory isn't something really that I do or I'll do on these sessions, but that's really what our ServiceNow Impact teams are geared towards. So we have different tiers or different packages that you can get with Impact, where you'll get an Impact squad, you'll get a customer success manager, and they're really going to be the ones that kind of set up those advisory sessions. They're going to set up kind of different benchmarks for you to hit. So I would definitely check that out. If you're not familiar with it, they have their own academy where they kind of walk through the Impact program and what you can expect from that. And then finally, if you are, rolling out knowledge management and you are rolling it out to a lot of users and you need help with your specific training for your organization, or maybe you want to have different guided tours and things like that built to help you, we have a custom training and adoption services team that can build that custom knowledge management training for you, tailored to your organization. They've built guided tours. So definitely another great resource for you to have. All right, just a few more slides on our kind of keys for success section. So I do want to speak to this one. This is going to be a high-level overview. We will definitely get deeper in other Academy sessions on governance and processes and roles. So don't think this is the only thing that you're going to get the entire year on this. I will definitely be speaking to this a lot. But before your implementation, you really do want to finalize or close to beginning your implementation, finalize your governance processes and your expectations. Your governance processes are really going to ensure that your organization knows the expectations of your knowledge management program, who's accountable for those, and the support that you have for your program from leadership, support teams, and training teams. So without governance, you could have the shiniest portal, the best virtual agent, the most beautifully architected knowledge base in the world. But if your knowledge articles aren't up to date, if they don't have good content, then it's not going to be used by your users. So governance is key to ensuring that your knowledge management, efforts and your knowledge articles are actually being used. Part of your governance process are defining roles and responsibilities. So we have different roles in ServiceNow that you can give out. We'll deep dive into these, but that's really going to be the ownership, the organization, and the maintenance of the knowledge base. I would suggest documenting these up front in your knowledge base, not so much relying on our product docs, because you're going to send these out to individuals as you tap people to be knowledge managers, as you tap people to be knowledge coaches. You can send them a knowledge article and let them know what's expected of them. Also, when you're onboarding new departments, let's say you're onboarding HR and they're going to put their knowledge in an HR knowledge base. You can say, hey, we need to know who your knowledge managers are and so on. Here's an article of the roles and responsibilities that this person would need to do. That way they know up front who to find for that. So we'll get deeper into that in a future session. And then also your knowledge processes themselves. So the processes for structuring, creating, using, reusing, and improving knowledge. Again, we'll get deeper into this. I do have a best practice session already posted on the Product Hub where we kind of go through each of the processes and pull out some best practices. But for future sessions, when you see the process and role deep dive, we're going to kind of talk about each of them, cover the roles that map to them, and then also we'll cover the best practices too. So a little bit of repetition, but not really. I kind of want to lay out the foundations for those. So no worries, not gleaning over it here. Just keep a lookout in future academies. And then last, the technology. So these first three are really going to drive your technology. They're going to drive which product you use, hopefully ours. They're going to drive the architecture of your knowledge bases, the different capabilities you choose to roll out, and then the different interfaces that you use for your users to consume knowledge. And then let's go ahead and get into kind of the final part of our keys, which is measuring, communicating, and celebrating success. So again, rolling back to those objectives and KPIs and metrics that we set up in the past, this is where they're really going to be helpful, where we communicate to leadership and get that buy-in, not only for the implementation, but we know how the implementation went. We set that baseline, and then we can communicate how it's doing to leadership. And then also ask for more resourcing, maybe some more money in the future for different capabilities, depending on what you want to do. But having these tracked and keeping your milestones and your measurements of them, and just keeping an eye on them. Also, making sure that you view your contributors and your users as invaluable volunteers of knowledge. And you're communicating to them how the program is doing. You're communicating to them the success. If you're achieving your goals, maybe you have one that's an area of opportunity and you need to work on it, and you need to get buy-in from teams. Maybe you need to roll out an initiative to agents, letting them know why you are doing that and how invaluable that they are for that success. Remember to always evangelize your knowledge management program. It's easy to do a lot of evangelization when we're implementing and right after go live, but remember, you're always going to have new employees. You're always going to have departments that you're onboarding. So keeping that evangelization fresh and top of mind, and making sure that your new folks and your transfers and your new departments are aware of your program and what you're aiming to achieve. And last but not least on this one, really ensuring that your employees are being recognized for their efforts, whether they're creating articles or reviewing articles or even leaving feedback on articles as consumers of those articles. It's really important to remember that our employees volunteer their time and their information and their caring, and that their efforts don't go unnoticed. So we have a top authors program here at ServiceNow where we recognize those efforts. You may have recognition programs out there already, just making sure that knowledge management is a part of those current programs that are out there. All right, so I do have a little bit of time for questions and then some wrap-up slides. So I did see we had some Q&A come in. If I can't answer it here live, I will definitely circle back around to it in the post for this. But let me just take a look and see kind of what's come in and what we can hit on this session. So someone's implementing Employee Center. Where can I find out more about the differences of knowledge management metrics between Portal and ECS? I'll probably take that offline and answer it a little bit more, because a lot of the metrics are going to be the same. Really, the main differences that you're going to see with Employee Center are how the unified taxonomy is set up. In using something like a service portal or knowledge management service portal, we rely on categories. But as far as your usage and your views and your feedback, that really should be the same. Those metrics should be flowing down. So I'm wondering if this question is kind of getting more into tracking our user journey and tracking our searches within Employee Center itself, where we kind of get more into the user experience analytics side of things. Feel free to put a comment here, and I can track it down in the comments on the event. And this is probably something we'll get into in our analytics sessions as we go forward. What's the best practice for global knowledge articles for both internal and external employees in the HR function? Should we combine to one knowledge base or separate to two knowledge bases, internal versus external? I do cover this in that part 2 series or 2-part series on the community. Really, the best practice is to focus on findability. And a lot of this is going to be driven by what you're using. So if you're using something like Employee Center, your taxonomy is going to take care of a lot of how folks find articles. For permissions themselves, You have user criteria at the knowledge base level. So you can decide at the knowledge base level who can read and contribute articles. So you have that control. And then you have it at the knowledge article level as well. So keeping those kind of things in mind of how you're organizing your articles and structuring them, if you're using unified taxonomy or not, and then the user criteria. And it really depends on the article too. So let's say that you have an HR article and most of it pertains to an external user, but you have some information for an internal user that you want to show. It's easy to kind of want to create two separate articles for that and put them in two separate knowledge bases, but we do have knowledge blocks as well that you can use in your knowledge articles. So you could create a knowledge article that both external and internal can see, and then you can create a knowledge block and use user criteria on the knowledge block and restrict that content to a specific group of internal users. So I would stress on this, really take a look into knowledge blocks if you haven't already. And when you're thinking about kind of separating into knowledge bases and separating into different personas and who should be able to see things, see if knowledge blocks will accomplish that for you before you split those articles out and split those knowledge bases out. Again, something we'll cover more in future academies too. Knowledge blocks is definitely a big question I get asked a lot. It's just a really powerful tool to make sure that you're not duplicating your efforts in creating knowledge articles. Does ServiceNow have a predictive intelligence tool similar to demand insights for identifying knowledge gaps, specifically to assess the accuracy of article linking with incidents? So knowledge demand insights, it is meant to capture those knowledge gaps. What it's going to do is take a look at all the incidents, cases, or HR cases, whatever you're using it for, that don't have a knowledge article assigned. It's going to cluster those and get the ones that are similar. And that way you can take that cluster and create a knowledge article based upon those incidents. The accuracy of article linking, that is something that we're looking at for the roadmap. So if you do have an article that is linked that maybe isn't the right one, it's not going to capture that currently. But that is an ask that we've had and something that we are looking into, especially when we kind of go forward with our generative AI efforts. So safe harbor knowledge demand insights is something that we are looking at for generative AI and how we can strengthen that, because there's a lot of opportunity there. Is it possible to create in ServiceNow a kind of a short video instruction platform like TikTok? That is a good use case, good question. Right now, I can tell you can embed videos into knowledge articles, but any kind of video instruction platform, I don't believe we have right now. I know that Employee Center has a lot of different content capabilities and rich content and things like that. So you might find something similar in Employee Center, but nothing really specific to knowledge management as a product right now. All right. Will there be future sessions on how to set up the knowledge management as well as best practices for building it out? I would say for setting it up itself, really the best resource is going to be those courses and using guided setup. I'm going to target a few things, but really not going to target kind of doing an end-to-end setup on one, just because everyone's kind of set up and their needs are so different. Those Now Learning courses are really going to be the best place to kind of find that out and walk that through step by step. If there are certain things you'd like to see that we can kind of target and pull out for maybe the short 15-minute sessions, please let me know. We're going to have a survey after the session, put it on there, and I can use it as a candidate for those knowledge short sessions and make sure we have some content out there on that. All right, I'll cover a few more of these. There are some I'm not going to be able to get to. I have a few more slides to wrap up, but let's go with the where can I find more information about unified taxonomy? Check out the Employee Center Products Hub. They have everything you need to know on there. They have their own academy. I know we did a session on knowledge management in the Employee Center that's not too long ago with the previous product management team. So that's a good one to check out if you want to know more about that and check out their academy. So if I didn't get to your question today, I apologize. I want to make sure we have time for these wrap-up slides. But please come back to this event that's posted on the Community Hub, and I will find the answers to these and type them out for you and have them for you shortly. All right. So to wrap up on this session, so hopefully if you are here, you registered for live on ServiceNow, just know that you're registered for all of our future Knowledge Management Academy sessions. So don't worry about having to register for each one. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will see that live on ServiceNow link below. When you register, go ahead and just take a look at what you want to register for as far as the different academies. Pick this one, and then you'll also be registered for future sessions as well. Be sure to bookmark that product hub and discussion in the knowledge management community and kind of refer back to it on your journey. Check out the AI Academy for any kind of generative AI specific topics. So Now Assist in knowledge management, we're going to be coming out with soon. I'm going to be on the AI Academy talking about that. If you want to know more about, knowledge or Now Assist in virtual agent and Now Assist for search and how they work with knowledge management, that's going to be covered in that academy. We're going to try to keep all of our AI, generative AI, Now Assist topics all in one place so they're not scattered across different academies. And then also just remember that this recording, the PDF of this deck and the Q&A will be on the community in just a few days once I get everything kind of edited and cleaned up. I do thank you guys for joining today. Our next session we will have on Tuesday, February 13th at 12 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about what's new in Washington, D.C. for knowledge management. So this is going to be a really good one. It's going to be informative. There are some changes coming up that I want everyone to be aware of, so there are no surprises on that, as well as some other great capabilities that we've come out with as well. So keep that date in mind. And then also, if you're looking for other academies, we have tons out there for you. Our Platform Academy, which covers upgrades, clones, really kind of foundational things to administering the platform. Workflow Academy, that is a new one put out by my counterpart, Lisa Holdenstein. She will be talking about workflow specific topics such as flow designer, process automation designer, decision tables. So if you're looking at doing more workflow specific things, check that academy out. Our Analytics Academy has been out for a while. That is a really great one. They have a lot of great content. So if you want to get deeper into analytics. Mobile Academy, Next Experience Academy. So that one, if you're looking into moving to workspaces, you're looking at UI Builder, you're looking at components, or maybe even you're getting Next Experience with Vancouver and you're upgrading, that's going to be the academy for that. Of course, the AI Academy that I just spoke of, and then Conversational Interface Academy. So if you're looking at agent chats, Sidebar, which replaced Connect Chat in Tokyo, and some other kind of conversational tools that we have out there. Virtual Agent, which I think that one might be moving to the AI Academy, but take a look at that academy for those kind of products. And with that, I thank you guys for joining me today and all the great things that you put in chat and interacting. Thanks for joining me on my first session, and I look forward to future sessions with you. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day. Bye.